Welcome to today's first Chesapeake Chat sponsored by Newport News Shipbuilding Session. I am Annika Seth, a first Chesapeake FTC and FRC alumni and an alumni ambassador sponsored by Booz Allen Hamilton. I am here to introduce today's first Chesapeake Chats. First and foremost, I want to thank this session's sponsor, Newport News Shipbuilding, for making this chat possible. Just some housekeeping, we're going to first let the speakers present and then open up for discussion questions later on if there is time. Please put questions in the comment section or in the chat section, throughout the session, and we'll get to them all at the end of their presentations. As a quick reminder, the volunteer registration system is now open for FTC volunteers with our next event of the season this Saturday, January 8th. We again have remote roles available like judge, making it easy to support our STEM community even from a ways away. Please visit our volunteer webpage at www.firstchesapeake.org/volunteer for instructions and links to register. Second, we're trying something new this year. Before the end of today's presentation, we're going to ask a question that relates to something from our chat or to first, and the first person to enter the correct answer in the chat box will win a $10 Chick-fil-A gift card. So on that note, let's get started. Today's chat features a cool jobs discussion with employees from Booz Allen Hamilton, the very company that sponsors the Alumni Ambassador Program. So today we have Dr. Cedric Sims, Chantal Murdoch, and Annalise Kniff. At this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Sims for some brief introductions. Dr. Sims, it's all yours.
Hello, I'm Dr. Cedric Sims, and Happy New Year. Hope you're all staying safe and warm in light of the pandemic and the weather that we've been experiencing across the Chesapeake region. I'm a senior vice president with Booz Allen Hamilton and an engineering graduate from Texas A&M University. At Booz Allen Hamilton, we're a cutting-edge engineering and consulting firm that does research and development and systems designs for the U.S. military and our civilian government. Many of our applications are applied to Homeland Security. I started my career as an engineer. I worked on some of the very first autonomous vehicles in the early 90s. My goodness, things have come so far since then. My path took me through a great career with Secret Service, and I arrived here at Booz Allen Hamilton. I'm pleased to introduce my colleagues, Chantal Murdoch and Annalise Kniff. They'll show you some very exciting projects that we're working on. So what I'd like to do now is turn it over to my team. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chantal Murdoch. I am currently a lead robotics engineer at Booz Allen. I got started, originally I wanted to be a veterinarian, and it was just too much schooling for me. So in my spare time, ever since I was like 8, I love to take things apart. So it just seemed that getting into the engineering industry just seemed right. So I ended up majoring in computer science. I worked at NASA for a little bit. I was doing data analytics, and I would just sit at my desk all day, and I really was just like, okay, like sitting here for 8 hours is sort of boring. So I found out somewhere around where I live, they were doing autonomous unmanned surface vehicles, and I had a background in coding, and they were looking for people that could code. So I ended up doing that, and I fell in love with it. What I really like about working with robotics is you get the best of both worlds. It's where software and hardware meet. So, sometimes I might be at my desk. Sometimes I might be in the lab working on a robot, or when we do field tests, I might actually be out in the field. Like I've been in the woods. I have been in the sea. We've had unmanned jet skis, like self-driving jet skis, which is really fun because how many jobs do you know where you get to play with jet skis and get paid for it? So, I guess I would just say anybody that's looking to get into this career to just try different things and see what sticks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Annalise Kniff, and right now I'm in one of the Booz Allen labs in Herndon, Virginia. My career in engineering started in high school when I took my first engineering course. In that course, I was able to learn about all different types of engineering and get to do some hands-on projects, which is what I like most about engineering, is getting to work with others and do the hands-on activities, especially the 3D printing parts. I then went on to Lehigh University, where I studied mechanical engineering. And there I really fell in love with CAD and CAD modeling, especially looking at product design. Through that, I was able to do different projects and learn more about 3D printing. Then I learned about Booz Allen the summer before my master's, When I got to Booz Allen for my internship, what I loved most was all of the collaboration. We were put in a team of 5 engineers and were told, here's your problem. You have 2 months to solve it. And it was great getting to work with different people, see what their different skill sets are, and then have a successful solution at the end. Now, since earning my master's, I've come back to Booz Allen and I've been here for about a year. Throughout that time, I've gotten to work with different clients in the Army and the Air Force, and I've gotten to work on some very exciting R&D projects, specifically related to robotics. I've worked on the payload management system for some of our robots. At Booz Allen, we like to be modular. So the focus of this project was figuring out a way to get different payloads on and off our robot quickly. This is great for use cases in the military where they might have to go into a new mission at any minute and they need to figure out what payloads to get on and do it very quickly. So with that, some of the robots we have here, I'm with some team members right now. We have Chris, Kelsey, and our fearless leader, Patrick. We have a jackal and a spot robot. I don't know how many are familiar with these platforms, but you can see in the back here are 4-legged spot robot. And what's great about this is the terrain that the robot can walk over. Can climb upstairs, go into buildings and do surveillance missions like that. And then on the bottom, you have our wheeled platform, a jackal. So that's just some of the platforms we're working with at Booz Allen. In the back here, you can see our small unmanned aerial systems, which we're also working with on R&D projects.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I really love seeing the robots, and I used to intern at the Applied Physics Lab at Hopkins, and so like the 4-legged robots are always my favorite ones to see and get to watch move around and just play with. So thank you so much for showing us those. I think what I really liked about both of all of your presentations was the highlighting of how there are so many different paths to an engineering career. Some of us know that we want to do that from, high school, and that's kind of, the path that we follow through career, but others, it takes a little bit of a more turning path to get there. And I think that both are super valid and super rewarding. And I would love to know kind of on that page, what advice all 3 of you might have for younger students interested in STEM, engineering, robotics, any of that kind of stuff. And we can start, Dr. Sims, with you, if that's all right.
Sure, thank you. I think my main advice would be to be flexible because there's so many tremendous ways that you probably can't even imagine you can apply your talents when you actually get into the field. And the great thing about engineering is that there's so many really cool problems that come before us that we get to solve. One of the things that started my career with Secret Service is I got to work on the limo program for the president. And of course, I can't talk about any of the details, but there were really cool things we got to do, to enhance the protection capabilities and things like that, and being able to apply engineering disciplines to that, and really work at missions that are right at the center of our government is really cool. I didn't have access to robotics at that time frame. I have since had an opportunity to serve as a mentor for an FRC team for a few different seasons, of which one of them we went to Worlds. So very proud of our lumberjack robotics team. But it's just been a fantastic journey, and so my main advice would just be flexible and let the opportunities come before you.
Thank you so much for that. And Ms. Murdoch, if we can go to you next.
Sure. I would say the number one thing is don't be scared to fail. Like right now is the perfect time. You're never going to get this type of time to fail and it's going to be okay. I remember when I was in middle school to high school, everybody starts talking about college, like, oh, what school are you going to? What are you going to major in? And you get so caught up that you're like, okay, if I major in this is going to dictate my whole life. And that's just not it. Just try different things and really just go for it. I will say I was that kid that I loved science, but I hated math. So I was like, I'm never going to be an engineer. Look at all these courses, calculus 2, 3, whatever. But then when I started doing more stuff on the side with tech, specifically coding, you do have to have like basic courses like calculus and things like that. But it made it fun because it was something I was interested in. So I would say, even if math isn't your strongest thing, don't let that deter you from trying. Like, you just have to find something you're interested in and you'll figure out a way to make it work. I make the joke all the time, as coders, we're known for Googling everything. You know, when somebody asks me a question, the first thing I say is, have you tried to Google it?
No, I mean, I'm a first year in college. So that's super profound and very relevant to me, and I'm sure to many audience members too, where I think often like the kind of linear progression kind of puts blinders up for us. So I think kind of that flexibility to explore and pursue and not be so caught up in what has to come next is really great advice. So thank you for sharing that. And then we'll wrap up with you, Ms. Kniff, if that's all right.
Sure. My advice would be to explore all opportunities in all types of engineering or STEM. Initially, I thought an engineer meant you were working on designing bridges and things like that. But through my coursework, I was able to see how broad the field actually is and all the applications you can apply to what you study. And also always be ready to learn new things. I added a minor during college in my last year of undergrad because I had learned about it and I didn't know exactly what the name was for what I wanted to do. But once I started hearing about the coursework and that, I got super excited and knew I had to learn more about it. So always be ready to learn. And they definitely teach us that at Booz Allen as well, with all the coursework we're allowed to do in addition to our project work.
Super cool. I think the idea of lifelong learning is really important, and one to just keep in mind in general, to know that it never really stops. You can always learn something more from our surroundings. So thank you very much for sharing that as well. We have some audience love in here for the two robots that you were showing us. Can you tell us a little bit more about what projects they've been used for, what you're working on right now with them, and just anything more about those two machines you've got going on?
Sure. So I can't get into too much of the details because it is R&D and an internal investment project. But I can say overall, we're working on the human-machine interaction. So how do we as humans work with the robots? We don't want to be in 10 years looking down at the remote like this the whole time. And our soldiers definitely can't be doing that either. So we're working on finding out new ways to talk to the robots through different interactions and things like that. And so that ties into autonomy and being able to give the robot a mission and then be able to do it on their own, rather than telling them you have to walk forward 10 meters, turn right, and go 5 meters, things like that. So that's the exciting part of R&D, is getting to work on what will be the new thing and what the soldiers will be using in a few years' time.
That's really cool. I think the idea of like new ways to like control devices is one that a lot of first students can very much resonate with. I think a lot of like what students do in first is try to figure out the most efficient way to autonomously control something, or how can we, improve speeds or efficiency or something like that without too much manual input to minimize error. So I think it's really cool to see how those kinds of concepts trickle upward into the workforce and these more professional and more, pressing subject matters of national security and national importance. So thank you for sharing that. We have an audience question here for Dr. Sims. If you could comment on whether engineering provides a gateway to other roles like finance, strategy, and/or marketing.
Well, thanks for asking that. I don't know if someone teed that up for me. So I'm probably a very non-traditional engineer now. And so I've had the benefit of knowing that is the case. Engineering certainly can open up all kinds of unique paths. Chantal was talking about the computer science aspect of engineering, and you'll find that most of the trades that happen on Wall Street now are actually done by computer programs that are being written by computer engineers. If you look at a number of things that happen within finance, and some things that are happening in some other business areas, is that we're applying more applications of artificial intelligence and machine learning. We're finding brand new ways to impact other sorts of disciplines that aren't what you would consider traditionally engineering. So it's that kind of like that hybrid of bringing engineering together with other disciplines that really helps drive improvements in other study and practice areas that we could have never imagined before. And so for me, I have the benefit of applying my engineering background and talent and looking at very large scale, complex programs, as well as my team does too. And those are big investments that are happening within the federal government, very, very complex programs, very complex interactions between data and systems that really affect our ability to implement national security and domestic resilience. And so we're using our engineering prowess and our great talent to be able to solve some really, really difficult problems. They're not bridge related projects, right? So it's very non-traditional approaches, but certainly I think that it's one of the best ways engineering can be applied when it's used in with other disciplines.
That's really interesting. One of my really close friends is actually majoring in financial engineering. And I think if you had said a field like that, not too long ago, it'd have been like, wait, what is financial engineering? So I think that's a really cool way of thinking about how engineering isn't just what we think of as traditional STEM, but also kind of that intersection of these more like non-traditional forms of engineering and innovation. So thank you very much for sharing that. I'm really interested in learning more about potentially what challenges y'all have faced. I know that a lot of first students face a ton of engineering, technical, and non-technical challenges along their seasons. And I think learning more about how y'all address and approach and respond to conflict might be really helpful for our teams. And we'll go backwards this time. So if we can start with you, Ms. Kniff, that'd be really cool.
Sure. I'll do the non-technical approach. I was asked to join a team in March, and I had never met them in person before because of the pandemic. So meeting the team virtually was a challenge, and getting thrown into a project that I didn't know much background about was also a challenge. But being able to connect with the team was important, and finding out ways to do that virtually was the way you had to do it at that point. So making connections virtually and being open to having side conversations during the meetings to get to learn more about the people, rather than just talking about the technical aspects all the time.
Thanks so much. That's super interesting. And Ms. Murdoch, we'll go to you next.
Sure. So I'm dyslexic. And the most challenging thing for me was my courses in college, specifically the math one, linear algebra, where there's like a lot of row of operations and you're flipping columns around. And in my brain, I'm just like, what? So that goes back to what I said is like, fail. If you're going to fail quickly. So one of the things that I really learned early on is, okay, if I don't know this or I'm struggling, like as soon as possible, ask for help. Because 9 times out of 10, people want to help you. They don't want to see you fail. So just, talking to my professors and just getting additional help, or if that meant just getting extra time on my test. Same thing in my working relationship. If I don't know something or I have a very difficult task, there's no sense in like wasting time. So I'm just going to ask somebody like, hey, do you know this? Or do you know somebody that can point me in the right direction? And that has taken me pretty far.
That is great advice to not reinvent the wheel. Thank you so much. And Dr. Sims, I'll go to you last for this question.
Thank you. Chantal, you touched on something very important that talks about the culture of our organization, and Annalise, you did too. So I'm going to answer it by sharing a little bit about the culture at Booz Allen Hamilton. We're a highly collaborative organization. One of the things I was first told when I came on board, there are two virtues, if you will, in a career at Booz Allen. One of them is that if you need help, you need to ask for it. And the second is if you're asked for help, you need to be able to provide it. And so there will always be problems, there will be challenges, but if you always kind of go back to your core principles, back to the culture of your organization, if you have an organization that's collaborative, then you can really succeed even in an environment or in a project where there's a lot of challenges. Because oftentimes there's not necessarily a right answer, and there's not even necessarily a best answer. It's just coming to the one that works for us all, so we can move forward and make progress on behalf of our clients and our objectives that we're working on. So anyway, I would just wanted to draw upon both of you, Annalise and Chantal, kind of sharing a little bit about our culture of the organization. And I think that's really a key aspect of working in a place where you can overcome adversarial issues.
I really loved how you phrased that idea of being able to both ask for and provide help, as it being a two-way, not a one-way street. So thank you very much for that. As our final question, unless the audience has more things to ask coming up, I'm really interested in learning more about the summer games program, Booz Allen's really big internship. And I think, for me as an undergrad, for a lot of our outgoing high school students who are current team members, I think that it'd be really cool to see what we can kind of aspire toward later on in our college careers. And we'll start with Miss Murdoch here, if that's okay.
I am a Summer Games alumni, 2016, I believe. And after that, I went and worked at other internships, and Booz Allen Summer Games is like nothing I've ever experienced before. Like, I loved it. It was amazing. The networking that you get, the mentorship, but more specifically, as far as like the actual work that you're doing, they give you real world problems. It's not busy work where you're just going to be like, okay, go do some data analytics type stuff. Like, I think the one I was working on was cybersecurity for the DoD and doing training. And so we tried to find a way that would give people initiative to want to learn the training instead of just clicking through it. And I think the Marine Corps actually picked it up and actually used it. So we were able to find a solution at the end of our 2-3 months internship and actually have it work in real time. And then they also offered me a job afterwards too. So that's also really good. And you get to do like fun stuff. Like we would have like events where we go to restaurants, get food, and just all different types of stuff. Like a lot of team building too. I have nothing but good things to say about the Summer Games.
That is wonderful to hear. Thank you so much for sharing. And Dr. Sims, we'll go to you next here.
Well, not being a product of the Summer Games, what I can tell you about is I get a chance to see as we're working in the business, to Chantal's point, is how do we create and how do we find client challenges that we can put into the Summer Games program. And then obviously we get the opportunity to go through the process of selecting those that are fortunate to be in the program. One of the things that I've benefited from is one of my one of my mentees within our first robotics program at Boys Latin went through the Summer Games program and became an employee of Booz Allen as a result of that. So it's really, really cool to see the process from the beginning to Chantal as an example, being with our firm and having such a great career and such a great path forward as a result of it. So I've never seen a summer intern program that's like it.
I was muted, sorry about that, but awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll go to you, Ms. Kniff, next.
Sure. I loved my Summer Games experience. We were given a challenge the first day and met each other all on the first day. We all had different backgrounds. But the thing about the challenge was that we were also given a lot of freedom, which also comes with a lot of responsibility. But we were able to figure out where we could leverage our different skills to create a solution that met the challenge. Throughout the summer, we were also able to network with people across the firm and learn about their experiences, because our challenge was focused on the Army. Many veterans work for Booz Allen, so we were able to meet with veterans who could tell us their experience, and we could figure out what it would be like to be an end user with our solution, which was very helpful. So throughout the summer, like Chantal said, it's not just all about the working on your project. They really want you to figure out what you like about Booz Allen and what part of the firm you could see yourself working into, which was very exciting as an intern to be given that flexibility throughout the internship to meet with others and learn more about the firm in general.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have actually 2 more questions from our audience here, and we'll try to get through them a little bit quickly because we are running somewhat short on time. But the first one here is whether there is a way for first alumni to find out about internships at Booz Allen. And I think First Chesapeake's plugged in a link here to the Summer Games program, and I'm also going to get a couple of links in there about the LinkedIn First Alumni group and the First Alumni Scholarship resources and the alumni resources that they already have on the website available for everyone. So hopefully that is helpful for that one. And then one more question in here for Annalise specifically. We'll ask this to all of you if that's okay. There are many phases of the engineering process, as most first students have learned for their competition. What is your favorite step or stage of the EP? And do you ever feel like your work is done? And Annalise, we'll do you first for this one.
Sure. No, I never feel like my work is done. There's always more that you could add on. Before I go to sleep at night, I'm still thinking about our modeling for our payload mount and how we can make it better. But my favorite part of the engineering process is definitely the prototyping phase, when everyone's coming together and collaborating and sharing their ideas for what they imagine the solution could be, and getting to be hands-on, start playing with things, see what works, what didn't, and come together and figure out how we can improve upon it. So that's definitely the most exciting.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And Chantal, next to you.
I love the testing phase. That's where all of the theory and logic actually gets put to the test. You might run simulations, especially for robotics. I can run simulations all day and I can see a behavior and I'll be like, oh yeah, it's definitely supposed to work like that. But there's just so many infinite variables that you can just not account for until you get out in the field. And of course, since I like to not, sit down all day, I actually get to get up and do stuff. I just love it and it's challenging. And I will say, at least in what I do as far as robotics and you're doing field testing is, again, to be flexible, right? So I might plan for, this robot's supposed to walk in a straight line, in the woods. And then we go out there to actually test it and it's zigzagging, remain calm, but also, have some contingencies in place so we can make sure we're meeting deadlines and things like that. But I just love it. You have to think on your feet really quick sometimes too. So stuff like that's really fun for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Dr. Sims, over to you.
Well, the two of you have already chosen my two favorites, so I'll choose my third favorite at this point. And it's really the optimization and the improving aspect of it. After we kind of know what the capabilities are and we understand what the requirements are from the end user, what does it look like to continue to drive improvement in the performance and the design and the cost and the execution, and just kind of getting that next level of performance out of the capability. That's really an exciting thing. And it's really exciting because many times operators are already utilizing these systems. And when they see it work even better, they're like, okay, thank you. Now we can actually see the tangible improvement and the benefit that's come from that. So that would be mine, since Annalise and Chantal took my favorites.
Well, thank you all so much for all those really helpful answers. We are getting in links to the Alumni Network, the LinkedIn Alumni Networking Group, and the Booz Allen Summer Games Internship in the chat right now. And on that note, I want to get into my most favorite part of our chats every month, and that is our surprise question. So if you know the answer to this question, please enter into the chat box, and the first person to answer the question correctly will receive a $10 Chick-fil-A gift card. So today's surprise question is, which of our panelists interned at the Booz Allen Hamilton Summer Games program? And as we wait for answers, please watch this short video from Booz Allen Hamilton. Thank you so much, Booz Allen Hamilton. And on that note, our winner is Robotics with Cassie from the chat. You're going to get a direct message from First Chesapeake so we can get your gift card in the mail as soon as possible. But this actually was a surprise question because both Miss Murdoch and Miss Cuniff were interns for the Booz Allen Summer Games program. So thank you both for that. To wrap up, I want to thank today's speakers, Dr. Cedric Sims, Ms. Chantal Murdoch, and Ms. Annalise Cuniff for being with us today. And I want to thank Booz Allen Hamilton for being the first Chesapeake presenting sponsor and for sponsoring the Alumni Ambassador Program. Stay tuned for the next chat, making the most out of FRC Kickoff, great resources, strategic planning, and what to expect at a one-day event starting in just a few minutes. We want to again thank our first Chesapeake Chat sponsor, Newport News Shipbuilding, for their generous support of this program and of our 2022 Chesapeake District Championship. Please enjoy the short video about Newport News.